everyone, how's it going? This is Nanice, and this is your astrology reading for this spring-summer eclipse season of 2022, which is the solar eclipse in Taurus, which just happened the day before yesterday as I record this, which was on Saturday, April the 30th, and the lunar eclipse in Scorpio, which is happening on May 16th, which is Monday. So although the solar eclipse just happened, we are still very much in that energy right now. And the ancient people believed that it is during the time between the eclipses that the veil between the invisible realm and the visible realm are thin. So fated events are likely to occur during this time. And depending on how it reacts with your natal chart, perhaps these events are going to impact you for many more years to come. So we're living in a very significant time during this eclipse season. Do not be frightened of eclipses. Do not be afraid of the change. But it is a time to stay humble. It's not a time to do ceremonies. It's not a time to set a kind of ceremonial intentions and things like that, because eclipses are very fated moments, and it's a time to pray. It's a time to, if you want to, you can fast. It's a time to lay low and be humble, and to accept the fate that God has decreed for you, and to see the wisdom and grace in it, and to move through these times with that perspective. And these set of eclipses are happening in Taurus and Scorpio. And this Taurus and Scorpio axis has a lot to do with our sense of security and our sense of values. So topics collectively that could be highlighted during this time have to do with commodities, it could have to do with finances, it could have to do with food and currencies. There's going to be shakeups. There already has been, but this is going to be even more amplified during this upcoming period. So it's a time of fated changes, for better or worse, that we may feel them as better or worse, but ultimately, whatever changes and whatever challenges that you are going through during this time are in your best interest. God only gives us good. He always gives us what we need. It may not be what we want, but whatever events that are about to transpire in your life is exactly what you need for you to get yourself closer to God and to progress spiritually. So that's all I have for the collective portion of this reading. I'm going to go through each individual zodiac sign. So I highly urge you to use your rising sign. You need to know what time you were born for that. I put a free online calculator in the description box below. If you don't know what time of the day you were born, you can use the sun sign if you know you were born during the day, and the moon sign if you know you were born during the night. If you don't know if you were born during the night or day, you can just go with your sun sign. But for greater accuracy, I highly urge you to use your rising sign. For Aries, this set of eclipses is happening in a part of the sky that has to do with your own personal money and the money of your spouse or partner or business partner or clients. It is also part of the sky that represents your own self-worth, as well as how others value you or others' opinions of you. So the first eclipse that happened on April the 30th happened in your second house of personal possessions, money, personal resources, and assets, movable possessions, and also your assets, which include your time and your skill set, as well as your self-esteem and self-worth. So there was a new beginning, a new start having to do with those topics during that eclipse that happened 2 days ago. For the lunar eclipse that's happening on May 16th, it's happening in your 8th house of obligations, joint assets, taxes, loans, debts, inheritances, karmic debts, so not necessarily material things you owe to people, but a sense of obligation, a sense of you owing something to someone or someone owing something to you. And there's going to be a kind of fulfillment or an ending or a kind of culmination and harvest having to do with those topics during the next lunar eclipse in Scorpio. So over the next couple of months, themes to do with your possessions as well as partners or partners' possessions, and your own self-worth as well as others' opinions of you. Those things are going to be highlighted during this time. For Taurus, this is going to be a very dynamic time for you. It's because the eclipses are happening in powerful parts of the sky, which is in the 1st and 7th houses for you. The 1st house is the house that has to do with your own self and your own character and your own body, and the 7th house has to do usually with a significant other or or a partner or a business partner or your clients. So these are really important topics in life in general, you and the other. So these eclipses have the potential to mark significant changes that can last for not just the next few months, but perhaps for years to come. So the solar eclipse, which happened just recently in Taurus, happened in your 1st house of body, character, appearance, your health, your vitality, your character, your spirit, your psychology, as well as your life direction. So there was a new beginning that had to do with those topics that's still manifesting during this time. And in 2 weeks' time from now, during the lunar eclipse on May 16th, the part of the sky that lights up for you during this lunation has to do with partnerships. And lunar eclipse is about endings or culmination or a harvest. So there's going to be a closing of a chapter having to do with your partner, your spouse, your one-on-one relationships, your romantic partnerships, as well as business partnerships and client relations. So very dynamic time for Taurus risings, and it's going to mark a time of some meaningful changes. For Gemini, this set of eclipses is happening in a potentially challenging part of the sky for you. You may you may become aware of blind spots that you may have had in the past, and potential struggles to do with health, to do with your daily routine, to do with pets. Those kind of things may show up around the next few months. The solar eclipse that happened on April the 30th for you happened in your 12th house of hidden enemies, self-sabotage, so how you can be your own worst enemy without knowing. It happened in the part of the sky that has to do with secrets, addictions, hospitals, monasteries, retreats, prisons, and a sense of isolation. So kind of challenging themes, and a beginning having to do with those themes happened on April 30th. We're still in it right now. We're still in that energy. It's also the part of the sky that has to do with ego loss. So it has a great spiritual potential. I mean, we rarely as human beings attain any kind of spiritual kind of desire when life is going well. But when there's eclipses happening in the 6th and 12th house like it is for you, it can be a great time to seek out ways to dissolve your ego and to connect with the divine. The lunar eclipse that's happening on May 16th for you is going to happen in the 6th house of sickness, selfless service, toil, labor, daily routines, employees, and pets. So there's going to be an ending, a culmination, or a fruition, or a harvest having to do with those topics for you during that time. And it's going to last for the next couple of months for you as well. For Cancer, this set of eclipses is happening to change in your life, things to do with social groups, as well as creativity and children and hobbies. So the first eclipse, which happened a couple of days ago on April 30th, happened in your 11th house of aspirations, hopes and wishes and dreams for the future, friends, allies, and social groups, and benefactors. So there was a new beginning having to do with those topics, and we're still in that energy right now. The lunar eclipse, which is happening on May 15th, is happening in your 5th house of creativity, children, the arts, hobbies, recreation, pregnancy, and things that you find pleasing and pleasant in general. So there's going to be a kind of fulfillment or an ending or a culmination or a harvest having to do with those topics during the next eclipse. For Leo, this is going to be a very powerfully felt set of eclipses for you because they're happening in a very dynamic part of the sky for you. It's happening. It's going to have to do with your private life as well as your public life. The first eclipse, which happened on April 30th, happened in your 10th house of career, public reputation, what you are known for in the public, how you spend your time. So maybe if you don't have a career, maybe it's you're a caregiver or a stay-at-home parent. It's what you are known for, and as well as honors and privileges and advancements in society. So or like public recognition. So there was a new beginning having to do with those topics during the eclipse that just passed a couple of days ago. The lunar eclipse is happening in a much more private portion of the sky for you. It is happening in the foundation of your chart, which has to do with your family, your home, your ancestors, your parents, your land and property, as well as things that are hidden in the roots, hidden under the ground. So the eclipses are highlighting both the most private part of your life as well as the most public part of the life. And it's going to, when anything happens in those parts of the chart, it's naturally going to affect many facets of your life. So this is going to be a very significant set of eclipses for you, which could potentially resonate through many more years to come. For Virgo, this set of eclipses is happening in a part of your chart that has to do with your beliefs as well as your communications and your intellectual life. The solar eclipse in Taurus, which just happened a couple of days ago, happened in your 9th house of God, higher education, spirituality, mysticism, astrology, law, politics, religion, long distance trips, foreign countries, foreign people, foreign things, as well as in general, I think, did I say law and politics? Maybe I believe I said law and politics. So in general, your beliefs, what you believe in. So there was a new beginning, a fated new start having to do with those topics for you. And we are still in that energy right now, and it's still unfolding as we speak. The next eclipse, which is happening in the 3rd house for you, the lunar eclipse in Scorpio on May 16th, is happening for you in your 3rd house of siblings, extended family, so cousins, aunts, uncles, brothers, sisters, as well as neighborhoods and neighbors, as well as your daily commute and your communications as well, your reading, writing, communicating, teaching, and it's also a part of the sky that's symbolic of the life of the mind. So there's going to be an ending or a culmination or a harvest having to do with those topics during the next lunar eclipse in Scorpio for you. For Libra, these set of eclipses is happening in a part of the sky that has to do with your money and the money of others. So it's also happening in a part of the sky that represents your own sense of self-worth as well as how others value you. The eclipse that just happened a couple of days ago, the solar eclipse in Taurus on April the 30th, happened in your 8th house of obligations, joint assets, taxes, loans, debts, inheritances, karmic debts, a sense of you owing something to someone or someone owing something to you. So obligations, not necessarily material, but just it could be like you feel obliged somehow in terms of actions. It's also a part of the sky that's symbolic of death. So those topics could have been highlighted, and it's still happening. We're still in that energy right now, a new beginning having to do with those topics that I just listed. The lunar eclipse in Scorpio happening on May 16th is happening for you in the second house of personal resources, your money, your movable possessions, and personal resources also in terms of your skill set and your time as well as your own sense of self-worth and self-esteem. So there's going to be an ending or a culmination or a harvest having to do with those topics during the next lunar eclipse in Scorpio. For Scorpio, this is a very dynamic set of eclipses for you because it is happening in a very powerful part of the chart that represents you and the other, whoever that other is, whether it's a romantic or business or any one-on-one relationship, as well as you yourself personally as a body, as a person. So the solar eclipse that happened on April 30th happened in your 7th house of partnerships, one-on-one relationships, your spouse, romantic partnerships, as well as business partnerships and your clients. So all one-on-one relationships. There was a new beginning having to do with those topics, and we are still in that energy right now. It is still unfolding. The lunar eclipse in Scorpio, which is happening on May 17th, which we're building up to right now, is happening in a very personal part of the sky for you. It's happening in your 1st house, which represents your body, your character, your appearance, your health, your vitality, your psychology, your character, your spirit, as well as your sense of life direction. So it's a very, a lot of meaningful changes are going to happen during this time for you. So be open to that, and whatever happens, just know that it is for your best interest. For Sagittarius, this set of eclipses is happening in a challenging part of the sky for you, having to do with your own blind spots, as well as some struggles that you may face in the upcoming time. In a more positive sense, although whatever God gives us is ultimately positive, if we see it if we can see it from that big picture. So not to worry about what's to come. You will look back at this time and understand that these events were meant to happen to get to where you are supposed to be in the future. It's in a different sense, from a different perspective. This set of eclipses is happening in a part of the chart that has to do with selfless service and dissolving your ego. So if you could kind of lean into that, perhaps, rather than thinking about your own personal material gains, that could help you during this time. The first eclipse, which happened on April 30th, happened for you in the 6th house of selfless service, daily routines, sickness, hard work, struggles, workers, employees, and small pets. So there was a new beginning having to do with those topics, and we are still in that energy right now. The next eclipse, which is happening on May the 16th, is happening in your 12th house, which has to do with hidden enemies, including how you yourself can be your own enemy, how you can self-sabotage. It has to do with addictions, hospitals, monasteries, retreats, prisons, sense of isolation, ego loss, as well as large animals. So there's going to be an ending or a culmination or a highlighting or a harvest having to do with those topics during the next lunar eclipse in Scorpio for you. For Capricorn, this set of eclipses is highlighting changes in your life having to do with social groups, as well as creativity and children, and hobbies and recreation. So the first eclipse, which happened on April 30th, happened in your 5th house of creativity, children, pregnancy, the arts, recreation, hobby, and things that you find pleasurable and fun. So there was a new start having to do with those topics that's happening around this time. We are still in that energy right now. And the next eclipse, which is the lunar eclipse in Scorpio on May the 16th, is happening in your 11th house of aspirations, friends, social groups, allies, benefactors, hopes and wishes and dreams for the future. So there's going to be a harvest, a culmination, as well as perhaps an ending having to do with those topics. For Aquarius, this is going to be a very powerfully felt set of eclipses for you because it is happening in a part of in parts of the sky, in parts of the chart for you that has to do with the most private parts of your life as well as the most public part of your life. The solar eclipse that happened on April 30th happened for you in your 4th house of foundations, home, family, father, parents, ancestry, land, property, your roots, and things from under the ground. So the foundational part of your life, there was a new beginning having to do with those topics, and perhaps it involves some sort of shakeup or some sort of like electrical, eccentric or unusual component to it. So there was a new beginning, a fated new beginning having to do with those topics. And the next eclipse, which is the lunar eclipse in Scorpio, is happening in your 10th house of career, public reputation, what you are known for in the world, how you spend your time. So if you don't have a career, maybe you're a caregiver or a stay-at-home parent. It has to do, it's a part of the sky that has to do with public honors, privileges, and social advancements. So there's going to be a culmination, a harvest having to do with those topics, and potentially an ending having to do with those topics as well. For Pisces, this set of eclipses is happening in the parts of your chart that have to do with your beliefs as well as the way you communicate. The solar eclipse, which happened on April the 30th, the solar eclipse in Taurus, happened in your 3rd house of siblings, extended family, neighbors, neighborhood, aunts, uncles, cousins, folk culture, reading, writing, journalistic activities, the life of the mind, communicating, teaching, short distance trips, the daily commute. So there was a new beginning having to do with those topics or related to those topics. The lunar eclipse, which is happening on May 16th, is happening in your 9th house, which has to do with God, beliefs, higher education, long distance trips, spirituality, mysticism, astrology, law, politics, religion, foreign countries, foreign people, foreign things. So there's going to be a culmination, a harvest, or an ending of a chapter having to do with those topics during this eclipse season. And it's going to last for the next couple of months. So that's all I have for you guys today. I hope you found this video helpful. If you like to book a personal reading with me, please email me. If you find value to this channel, please consider donating via PayPal. And I'm wishing you all a very blessed eclipse season, and I will be speaking to you guys soon. Bye.